Some of you saw a couple comments that I made when I was on vacation back in December about going to the seashore, going down to the Gulf Coast and doing some seashell hunting. We'll see if I'm awake enough to say this, but I was seeking seashells by the surfing seashore. I am awake enough. But one of the things that I noticed as I approached the shore, and it's the same thing if you go down to the shore here. As we're walking down, we see not necessarily a pleasant sight. Scattered throughout, you'll find seaweed, dead fish, garbage, pieces of wood just laying around, and millions upon millions of broken shells. And it looks like a mess. It needs to be cleaned up. But as you begin to walk along the shoreline, you start to notice a few things. The wood that is laying there has a sense of beauty to it. The shells, although they are broken, crumbled, there are many shells in there that have the most amazing colors and shapes, designs. As you start picking them up and looking through, you find rare and unique shells that have been washed up in the surf. And all of a sudden, that mess, as you were walking down, becomes a peaceful, a calming place where you let your tensions go. You wade along the shoreline, and you find joy in doing so. You see, throughout life, we find dirty items in our lives that often have great beauty and success. Mike Rowe has made a career in dirty jobs. As the host of the Discovery Channel's show by that title, Dirty Jobs, he has worked in thousands, literally thousands, of disgustingly filthy jobs. Whether it is cleaning out muck pits, helping to deliver animals, no job he does is ever clean. But almost every job that he has done, he has found some sense of worth, some sense of enjoyment, some sense of beauty. For they all serve a specific purpose. And although he's found these items in there, there are some jobs that he has openly said he would not do again. But on a more personal level, some friends I know, maybe some of us here, enjoy working as a treasure hunter. You take your metal detector and you walk through the yard or along the shore, wherever it is that you are, and you hear a little ding and you start digging through the dirt. Maybe you find a penny or a quarter, a button. Sometimes you find trinkets, items that are worth a lot of money. And so you clean them off. And then you're searching through the dirt. You found a little miracle. Archaeologists do this for a living. Digging through the dirt to expose ruins of old. And then there are those who just can't get away from the water. They search for the sunken treasures with ships that have gone down, the old rusted and decayed ships that are sitting on the bottom of the ocean or a lake, looking for those little miracles that will make a difference. But what we do find is that there is almost always some sense of beauty to find amongst the dirty. We know God is able to pull beauty out of the muck and the mire. We read a story similar to this one a few weeks ago. This one comes from the Gospel of John, where Jesus heals a man that was born blind. And so I ask you, and just so you know, I changed just a little bit. The scripture actually called for this week called for 1 to 42. So I cut it down for your sake. But I originally chose 13 to 33, but I revised that. We're now doing the first part of the story, verses 1 through 11. So I ask you to hear the word of the Lord. As Jesus went along, he saw a blind man from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, so that he was born blind?" "Neither this man nor his parents sinned," said Jesus, "but this happened so that the work of God might be displayed in his life. As long as it is day, we must do the work of him who sent us. Night is coming, and when no one can work night is coming, when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world." Having said this, he spit on the ground, made some mud with the saliva, and put it on the man's eyes. "Go," he told him. "Wash in the pool of Siloam." This word means sent. So the man went and washed and came home seeing. His neighbors and those who had formerly seen him begging asked, "Isn't this the same man who used to sit and beg?" Some claimed that he was. Others said, "No, he only looks like him." The man himself insisted, "I am that man." "How then were your eyes opened?" they demanded. He replied, "The man they called Jesus made some mud, put it on my eyes, and he told me to go to Siloam and wash. So I went and washed, and there I could see." With mud, simple dirt that Christ spit upon and made into mud, he was able to make this man see the new life that was to lay before him. He gets up, he praises, he affirms everything that Christ has done. He shares later in the story, when asked by the Pharisees, he looks at them and says, "One thing I do know, that though I was blind, now I see." It was Christ who opened my eyes. We come to church often looking for inspiration, guidance, uplifting, messages, trying to improve ourselves. In the 18th century, coming to church was just that. That was your spiritual fill for the week. And you would come, you would sit with you, and you would listen. Having been fed, you would go on your way and do whatever it is that you did during the week. If you were in higher society, you were expected to be at church on Sunday. The rest of the week, you were expected to do your job, whatever that may be. If you were to profess your faith, rely on your religion, do anything more during the week, you were often considered to be ostracized and pushed out of society. One man in the 18th century was a politician for the House of Lords in Parliament, William Wilberforce. Came up from a very well-to-do, well-connected family. His grandfather was the mayor of Hull. Got him into the best schools, connections, throughout all of Europe. At 22, he bought his way, after the passing of his grandfather and his parents, he bought his way into Parliament, which was the tradition at the time. And at 24, he was asked to give a speech for a friend and ended up being elected for the county of York to the House of the Lords, which was considered the most powerful of all the counties to be elected from. But about a year later, something changed his life. He did something that we wish, all kind of wish would change our life. He went on vacation. And he went down to the French and Italian Riviera, and there he stayed with his sister and a former headmaster of his when he was a child. But during that time, the conversation revolved around the Bible. And he came to know that the Bible and Christ asked for more. If Christ was to be the light of the world and was to shine in his life, he was going to have to do something a little different. And so he came to understand that faith and religion were not just a Sunday thing, but it was a calling. It was a calling to an action. So in 1786, William Wilberforce began taking active stances in the areas of humanitarian reform, especially that of slavery. He knew that the slave trade between Africa, the colonies, because they weren't calling it the United States then, although we were, and England, knew it was wrong that these humans, these people, were being taken from their lives and forced into slavery. And so in 1787, a year later, after he started taking up these reforms, Prime Minister William Pitt challenged Wilberforce to bring a motion against slavery in Parliament. And so he started a career of abolition, of awakening, of awareness. In 1807, he managed to get past the Slavery Trade Act in England, which ended the slave trade. And just a few years later, in 1833, he introduced the Slavery Abolition Act, granting emancipation for all slaves in England. On July 26th of that year, not doing well health-wise, he receives a message from his friends in Parliament that there are enough votes to pass the Abolition Act. 3 days later, William Wilberforce passes away, knowing that through all the work he has done, there are 800,000 slaves in England who are about to be freed. Christ put it on his heart to realize that he was called to do something. He was to take the dirt wrapped up in slavery and to provide a miracle for hundreds of thousands of men, women, and children, to give them freedom, respect, all of what every human desires. One of Wilberforce's friends, John Newton, wrote the song Amazing Grace, which we're going to sing here in a few minutes. But Amazing Grace shares the joy that Wilberforce found in being taken by God. And like the blind man, have having his eyes washed so that he could truly see the new life that he was to lead. A man who was destined to be the Prime Minister of England was willing to risk his political career to stand up for the filth, the injustices in his culture, in his society. You see, through the muck and the mire of life, God is able to pull out beauty. And so I ask you this morning, what has God been trying to help you see? When you look around Willow Grove, Montgomery County, Philadelphia area, what do you see that needs to be exposed? What do you see that needs to have the light shined upon? Where do you feel a need that needs to be addressed? What is God calling you to change? Whether it be in your life or in your world. As we sit here, are we willing to let Christ walk up in front of us, spit on the ground, stir up a little bit of mud, and create a dirty miracle in our lives? The song Amazing Grace is one of the most commonly known songs. We know it, most of us know it by heart. We sing it often at funerals, or we'll sing it as a meditational, reflective song. But the song itself is really a celebration of what God, what Christ can do with our lives. And so I want you to hear these words. Don't look them up. Close your books. I want you to hear the words. Amazing grace. How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. The Lord has promised good to me. His word my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be as long as life endures. Through many dangers, toils, and snares I have already come. It is grace has brought me safe thus far. And grace will lead me home. My favorite verse. When we have been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we have no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. This is a song of celebration. It is a song of joy. And so in a moment here, we are going to sing the song, and I'm going to ask that we sing it as such. For when we are willing to accept God's grace for what it is, a gift of new life, new sight, in a world that is just filled with muck and mire, that's when we see God at his best, pulling that beauty out. To God be the glory, now and forever. Amen. Lord, it is through your grace that you call us